Good morning, students. This is Sampat Bhadu, Assistant Professor of English, Government College, Dungargarh, Bikaner. Today, we are going to take up the poem Night of the Scorpion, Part 1. First of all, let's start with the poet. This poem is composed by Nissim Ezekiel. Nissim Ezekiel is a great figure, a towering figure of Indian English writing. Ezekiel was actually a prolific writer, a prolific poet, playwright, critic, broadcaster, and social commentator. He is considered to be the father of post independence Indian verse in English. Verse here means versification or poetry, we can say, the art of writing poetry. He was born on 24th of December 1924 in a Jew family. His father was a professor of botany and mother was principal of her own school. Since his schooling, Ezekiel studied the poets such as T.S. Eliot, W. Yeats, Ezra Pound, and continued to study further. The influence of all these poets was apparent in his early works. Today, we are going to discuss the poem, the most famous poem composed by Ezekiel, that is Night of the Scorpion. Actually, this poem, The Night of the Scorpion, is a poignant poem. Poignant here means emotionally moving poem by one of India's foremost modern day poets, that is Nissim Ezekiel. Please listen to me very carefully. In this poem, the poet describes the selfless love of a mother who is stung by a scorpion. To portray the motherly affections, he used imagery relating to the senses of sight, smell, touch, and hearing. Even though the scorpion parted poison in her toe, yet she is thankful to the god that the scorpion had chosen her and spared her children. Here, the poet remains as a helpless spectator and expresses his feeling. He also comments on the Indian culture where superstitions still play a significant role. The poem goes like this. I remember the night my mother was stung by a scorpion. 10 hours of steady rain had driven him to crawl beneath a sack of rice. The speaker remembers the night when his mother was stung by a scorpion on a rainy night, and the rain continued for 10 hours. Steady rain here means continuous rain, and that drove the scorpion to hide under a sack of rice, a bag of rice. Parting with his poison flash of diabolic tail in the dark room, he risked the rain again. The peasants came like swarms of flies and buzzed the name of God 100 times to paralyze the evil one. Very beautiful poem. Parting with his poison flash of diabolic tail in the dark room. Dear students, here, if we talk about the difficult terms in the stanza, in the last stanza we talked steady. Steady means continuous or regular rain. Flash here means a sudden burst of light, a quick movement. And diabolic means the poet establishes the scorpion as a symbol of evil. Here, diabolic means cruel, cunning, and wicked. So, parting with his poison flash of diabolic tail in the dark room. Now, after biting the toe of the speaker's mother, the scorpion moves in the dark room with its poison flash of diabolic tail. Diabolic tail means evil tail. And it risks again to go into the rain outside. When it rained, the scorpion came into the room, dark room, to hide itself, to protect itself from the rain. And it hid itself under the sack or under the or beneath the sack of the rice or bag of rice. And by the time, meanwhile, it happened that it bit the toe of the mother, and again it went out of the room in the rain. Afterwards, the villagers, they came like swarms of flies. Beautiful simile has been used over here, my dear students. Peasants have been compared beautifully to the swarms of flies. And they buzzed the name of God 100 times. Like swarms, they buzzed the name. They said the name of God 100 times. Here, we have a glimpse of superstitious approach, a superstitious mindset of Indian people, especially of our villagers. They correlate every evil or every good thing with the will or mercy of God. What they say, the villagers say that if you commit any mistake, if you commit any evil or anything evil happens to you, anything bad happens to you, what we allege that you have done something wrong in your past life or in your previous life. And the present evil is the result of your past bad deeds, evil deeds. That is why you are suffering in the present time. And whenever we are in difficulty, we start buzzing the name of God. We start praying. Likewise, over here, peasants or the villagers, they also came like swarms of flies and buzzed the name of God 100 times. Why? Why? Why they are doing like this? Simply because they want to paralyze the evil one. Who is evil one? The scorpion. They want to paralyze. Paralyze means to harm the evil one. With candles and with lanterns, throwing giant scorpions' shadows on the mud-baked walls, they searched for him. He was not found. They clicked their tongues. With every movement that the scorpion made, his poison moved in mother's blood, they said. They came with candles and lanterns, throwing giant scorpion shadows on the mud-baked walls. Due to the light of the candles and lanterns, the scorpion shadow magnified, and it was reflected on the mud-baked walls. The walls which were baked due to the heat of the sun. Large shadows. Giant scorpion shadows means large shadows which had scorpion like shapes. The poet ironically suggests that human beings are more dangerous than scorpions. Their shadows look like scorpions, only much bigger. Actually, here the giant scorpion shadows have been compared to the shadows of the human beings, shadows of the peasants, of the villagers, not of the scorpion itself. Here, the poet ironically compares the scorpion or the human beings to the scorpion. The scorpion is the symbol of evil. Likewise, human beings are also considered to be the evil ones. Their own shadows are reflected on the walls due to the light of the candles and the lanterns. And now they searched for him. Him here refers to, stands for the scorpion. He was not found, but he was not nowhere found. They clicked their tongues. They made a sound by clicking their tongues. They made short and sharp sounds with their tongues as a gesture of sympathy for the poet's mother. With every movement that the scorpion made, his poison moved in mother's blood, they said. Look at this superstitious attitude of the villagers. What they relate the movement of the scorpion with that of the spread of the poison in the body of the mother. That as the scorpion moves, the poison also moves in the mother's blood. And what they consider very ridiculously, that if the scorpion is killed, the poison also stops moving in the blood. That is what they consider. And of course, dear students, most of you are from rural background, and you might have heard or you might have experienced this kind of assumption, this kind of superstition in our rural areas, that what they consider that if any poisonous creature bites you and if you kill them, what happens? What we think, that the poison also stops spreading in the blood of the victim. May he sit still, they said. May the sins of your previous birth be burned away tonight, they said. May your suffering decrease the misfortunes of your next birth, they said. May the sum of all evil balanced in this unreal world. Now, what they are praying? What they are praying? They are praying God. Oh God, we pray you that let the scorpion sit still, so that the poison also stops spreading in the blood. May the sins of your previous birth be burned away tonight, they said. And what they consider, what they assume that today the sins of the previous birth will be burnt away. With what? With the sufferings of the mother. May your suffering decrease the misfortunes of your next birth. Very ridiculously. Next, what they consider, that if the mother suffers, it decreases the misfortunes of the next birth. The point to be noted that how the suffering of the present decrease the misfortunes of the next birth. But they believe. They said, may the sum of all evil balanced in this unreal world, and the total of the evils will be balanced in this unreal world. They call it as an unreal world, imaginary world, simply because it's a temporary world. And what they consider the real world is the heaven where the God lives. A religious mindset has been expressed over here. Next, against the sum of good become diminished by your pain, may the poison purify your flesh of desire and your spirit of ambition. They said that the evil and the good will be balanced today due to the suffering of mother, due to this pain that she is undergoing. May the poison purify your flesh. And this poison will purify the flesh of desire. The poison is going to purify the flesh of desire simply means that the evil desires, the evil intentions will be purified by the poison. Poison will balance, it will set a balance between the good and evil, and your spirit of ambition, and the ambition will also be balanced, they said. And they sat around on the floor with my mother in the center, the peace of understanding on each face. More candles, more lanterns, more neighbors, more insects, and the endless rain. My mother twisted through and through, groaning on a mat. All of them sat around my mother, the speaker says, on the floor, and the mother was located in the middle, in the center. And there was a piece of understanding on each face. Means there was a calmness of mind that comes from knowing the nature of things and accepting whatever is designed to happen. Means the villagers, what they consider that whatever happens in this world, it is predestined. They don't believe in actions, but they believe that whatever the action takes place in this world, they are predestined by the God, they are predecided by the God, they are preset by the Almighty. This is what they assume. More candles, more lanterns, more neighbors, more insects, and endless rain. What a beautiful rhythm. What a beautiful music in these lines. More candles, more lanterns, and more neighbors means people across the village, they are running and rushing with the lanterns and candles, and more insects also gather due to the light of the candles and the lanterns. And there was endless rain, incessant rain. My mother twisted through and through. My mother was moving to and fro. She was groaning. She was crying in pain on the mat. Now, on the other hand, my father, skeptic, rationalist, trying every curse and blessing, powder, mixture, herb, and hybrid. He even poured a little paraffin upon the bitten toe and put a match to it. Here, dear students, Contrary to the assumptions of the villagers, the speaker's father is a person of scientific temperament. He is a little bit skeptic, means doubtful. He is rationalist, means of a rational attitude. He was a man of scientific temper. He was trying every curse and blessing. Means it doesn't believe in these actions that they are predestined by the God, but what he assumes that whatever the action takes place in this world, whatever the reaction takes place in this world, that is caused due to some previous action. If there is action, there will be reaction. And he is a man of practicability. He employs practical methods by applying powder, mixture, herb, and hybrid. Mixture of herbs, a plant used in medicine. Mixture of combination of oil obtained from petroleum, a flammable waxy solid, that is paraffin. He also pours a little paraffin on the bitten toe, and then he puts a match to it. It starts burning. I watched the flame feeding on my mother. I watched the holy man perform his rites to tame the poison with an incantation. After 20 hours, it lost its sting. My mother only said, "Thank God, the scorpion picked on me and spared my children." And when the paraffin was poured and the match was put to it, it started flaming. It started burning, and the speaker was watching it. And on the other hand, the holy man was performing his rites to control the poison with an incantation. But naturally, what happened? When the 20 hours passed, the poison lost its effect and mother recovered. If we think it critically, if we think it logically, it was not the influence of the paraffin or the mixture or the herbs, but it was a natural process that the poison lost its effect after 20 hours. And at the end of 20 hours, the mother recovered, and the speaker's mother only said, "Thank God, the scorpion picked on me." Means the scorpion bit me and spared my children. This last stanza of 3 lines is quite striking. It's quite significant. Simply because it represents the motherly love, the motherly affection of the world, the motherly love of the women, the motherly love of especially of Indian women. Dear students, mother is the only person who can't see, who can't feel, who can't tolerate her children's suffering. Mother's love is totally selfless. Her love is unconditional. She never demands from her children in lieu of love, in lieu of affection. Her love is pure and unadulterated. And that pristine love, that pure love has been expressed in last 3 lines. Mother can suffer, mother can tolerate, immensely, but she can't see her children suffering. Let's analyze the poem critically. Nissim Ezekiel's Night of the Scorpion is the poet's personal account of his memory of his childhood. Once his mother was stung by a scorpion. He was helpless and just became a spectator. He explains that the scorpion had come in because of heavy rainfall and had hidden beneath a sack of rice. Ezekiel uses alliteration to describe the moment of the sting, parting with his poison. He uses the phrase diabolic tale to depict the evil and compare the scorpion to the devil. The scorpion disappeared from the spot after hearing the news of the deadly sting. Villagers came to the spot. Ezekiel uses the simile like swarms of flies to describe the number and behavior of the people. He states that they buzzed the name of God repeatedly, the onomatopoeia enabling us to hear the constant noise they made. The scorpion is again seen as the devil in line 10, the evil one, the evil one. We can imagine the fear of the child observing the scene as the peasant's lanterns created giant scorpion shadows on the walls of his home. Onomatopoeia is used again as the poet says that these people clicked their tongues. Clicking the tongue is the sound created by the tongue, like this. This is clicking of the tongue. Whilst searching for the scorpion, they believed that whenever the scorpion moved, its poison moved in mother's blood. Line 18 is the first in a 14-line section which recounts the words of wisdom voiced by the peasants in the hope that the woman would survive. 5 of the lines begin may and are clear examples of the religious beliefs that villagers held. They refer to the past and future lives, absolutions of sins, the lessening of evil, and the hope that the poison will purify the woman's flesh and spirit. Ezekiel describes how that surrounded his mother. He saw the peace of understanding in their facial expressions. In the lines 32 and 33, Ezekiel repeats the word more for 4 times and describes the arrival of more candles, more lanterns, more neighbors, more insects as the rain continued to fall. In the line 24, he makes the first direct reference to his mother's suffering, telling us that she twisted through and through and was groaning in pain, suffering in pain, crying in pain. Then the poet turns to the reaction of his father, who was not a religious and superstitious man, but a skeptic and rationalist. On this occasion, however, the man resorted to every curse and blessing, accompanied by various herbal concoctions. Such was his desperation. Ezekiel describes in detail that his father actually set alight to the toe that had been bitten by the scorpion. It must have had a profound effect on the poet as a child. He describes how I watched the flame feeding on my mother, personifying the fire. Ezekiel, here the fire has been personified. Flame is going to feed on my mother. Flame is feeding the mother. Ezekiel then watched and listened to a holy man carrying out certain rites to tame the poison, to control the poison. The poison lost its sting the following night, and after 20 hours of suffering, the mother had a sigh of relief. The first 45 lines form one continuous stanza relating the event from start to finish, concludes with a short three-line stanza in which the poet recalls his mother's reaction to her scary and painful experience. She spoke of it only briefly, thanking God and saying how glad she was that the scorpion had chosen to sting her and spared her children. This was the boundless, selfless love of a mother who had great affection and love for her children. Ezekiel never forgot these words throughout his life. In this poem, it's interesting to know that the poet narrates this incident as an observer's point of view. He was not involved in the situation as the other adults who were in any action. This allows him to relate the actions and words of the peasants and his father being detached from them. It is an insight into the behavior of a small community in rural India, where everyone becomes involved in one family or a mother's suffering, and all gather to witness the event and contribute a prayer, gives justifications, suggestions, etc. It must have seemed, though, to the poet as a child, as there was a huge gathering of people, and the night must have been everlasting. This comparison of the peasants to swarms of flies suggests that they would rather have left the family in peace and comfort. Dear students, let's discuss the poetic devices. First of all, let's start the structure of the poem. The structure of the poem is very free, with lines of varying lengths and no rhyme scheme. The second stanza that ends the poem attracts attention for its brevity and emphasizes the words of the mother and their effect on the son. Imagery, if we discuss the imagery is used to signify all the objects and qualities of sense, perceptions referred to in the poem. Nissim Ezekiel describes a childhood experience through this poem. The poet conveys through some imageries which can be understood by our senses. The senses consist of seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling, and touching. These are the five senses through which we perceive the things, the world, we understand the things through our senses. The poet creates an image to stimulate these senses. This is called imagery. It can be defined as the representation of an experience through language. Though visual imagery is most often used in poetry, an image may also represent a sound, a smell, a touch, or a feeling, or a sensation. In this poem, the poet has made use of various types of imagery. Let's discuss first of all the visual imagery. Scorpion crawling beneath a sack of rice. Peasants came like swarms of flies. Sound imagery. Buzzed the name of God 100 times. They clicked their tongues. Smell imagery. Smell of candles. Smell of burning oil in the lanterns. And physical experience. Scorpion biting the mother. That's all for today, and have a nice day. Tomorrow we will discuss the figures of speech used in this poem. Thank you and have a nice day.